It's time for Miami Dolphins mock draft 4.0. Get the fours up in the chat. It is the fourth mock draft of the 2025 season, but it is the second one that I have done after the season concluded against the New York Jets in Week 18. And I think this one is going to make a lot of people excited with the 13th pick, and we're going to jump right into it here because I have been little bit cautious of doing this in the past, but I'm going to take Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State, with the 13th overall pick. And just for a little bit of background information, Malachi Starks was off the board. And yeah, we're not going to take Starks every time, but it would be my pick without a question if he's there at 13. Kelvin Banks was there, but I go with Warren over Banks, even though offensive line is my biggest need. And there's a lot of reasons why, and I'll explain why in just a second. But Warren was the second most productive tight end in college football last season for the Penn State Nittany Lions. I mean, not often do you see a tight end put up these type of numbers. The only tight end to have higher numbers than Tyler Warren last season, Harold Fannin Jr., the tight end from Bowling Green, who was just an absolute freak, but also didn't play as much competition as Warren did, and didn't have a quarterback in Drew Aller who was very inaccurate. Warren is an excellent pass catcher. He's a clean route runner. He's got good speed. He's got good physicality. I'm a big fan of Tyler Warren's game. But the question you have to ask yourself is he also going to be able to help Miami in the run game? Because if you're drafting a tight end at 13, you're going to need him to do more than just pass catch, right? Warren had an up and down college career. In the 4 seasons as a starter for the Penn State Nittany Lions, he went good, bad in terms of blocking in the run game. And we know that the tight ends in Miami have to be able to run block. You see Durham Smythe, you see Julian Hill. Johnny Smith didn't do it that well this past season, but if Warren's going to be the tight end opposite of Smith, well, he's going to need to at least hold his own in the blocking game. But the reason why I think I would entertain the idea here of Warren at 13 is because it would change the Dolphins roster and the way this team plays. Because think about it. If the Dolphins draft Tyler Warren, you also have Jonnu Smith for 2025. You have a dominant tight end in Smith and one of the more dominant tight end prospects in Tyler Warren. You combine those two, you will have a need for a third wide receiver pretty much evaporated because you're going to run a lot of 12 personnel in terms of 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers, right? So you'll have Waddle, you have Hill, you have Warren, you have Smith. You could also move Smith to the slot in some plays. You could do it with Warren, Acham. You can line up schematically in a lot of different ways. It would eliminate the need for a third wide receiver, and you would also be able to run the ball more physically and be a more physically imposing team over the middle of the field. I mean, Jonnu Smith and Tyler Warren would immediately become probably the best tight end duo in the NFL. Like, seriously, when you go tight end 1 and tight end 2 combined, it'd probably be those two. Warren is a pick that might not be the most popular, and I would probably still rather draft an offensive lineman or safety with that 13th overall pick. But if they're not on the board and the Dolphins have Warren as their highest graded guy, why not take him and just take the best overall player and kind of overhaul the way you run your offense? BPA pick, and plus this is mock draft season, so let's just experiment with different type of ideas. But make sure you share this video. Help us out. Spread the word of Dolphins Today to more Miami Dolphins fans out there. And if you think I'm crazy, you think I'm smart for taking Warren at 13, send it to a friend, a family member, and get their thoughts on the matter as well. Help us out here by sharing today's video. In round 2, pick number 48, I'm actually going with a linebacker, Jihaad Campbell, out of Alabama. This is someone who I think could be a first-round pick, but also, depending on the pre-draft process, other people may rise, he may slide, and maybe he's there in the second round in the early portion or the middle portion. The Dolphins are able to pick up one of the most productive linebackers on the college level just a season ago. I know it's not under Nick Saban last season, but any Alabama linebacker is always going to get my ears perked up. He was good in coverage. He was good at ranging over the middle of the field, making tackles, actually pass rushing as well. But the part that I want to highlight the most is his ability to cover last season. He was unbelievable. PFF graded him at 80.2 in coverage. He had the most coverage stops, which is a stat given out in terms of PBU or just absolutely shutting down a play in the pass game. He was first in the nation in coverage stops last season as a linebacker. He was absolutely terrific, but how about this number? Are you kidding me? A missed tackle rate of 5.9%. So not only is he one of the best, if not the best coverage off-ball linebacker in football last season for the Alabama Crimson Tide, but he also had one of the lowest missed tackle rates. Yeah, if you don't bring back Tyrell Dodson in free agency, Jihaad Campbell would be a home run pick in the second round if he was there to be that off-ball linebacker too for the Dolphins in Anthony Weaver's defense next to Jordan Brooks. You'd have an elite middle linebacker duo for next season with long-term upside in Campbell as well. I think Campbell ultimately is a late first-round pick or early second-round pick, but if he's there at 48, I'd be pretty excited about that selection. Let me know what your thoughts are, though. What is the biggest need for the Miami Dolphins this offseason? I think it's interior offensive line. I also think safety, and then that's when you can start talking about off-ball linebacker 2, defensive line, backup quarterback in that 3-4-5 range. Let me know what the biggest need for the Dolphins is this offseason. In round 3, with that comp pick they're getting from Robert Hunt, I'm actually going with Andrew Mukuba, the safety from Texas. He is someone that I highlighted on a video in the past as a mid-round target for the Dolphins at safety. Him, Xavier Watts, Nick, the safety from South Carolina. I'm not going to try to say his name. There's also another safety I'm spacing on. It's going to kill me that I can't remember his name. But there's some pretty solid safeties in this draft class that you can take in the first round, Malachi Starks, second round, Xavier Watts, and some guys here in the third round that are going to intrigue people as well. Mukuba is one of the best coverage safeties in this class. I probably would put him as the second best coverage safety behind Malachi Starks because that's how good I think Starks is. You see the numbers, 5 interceptions and 6 PBUs. But when you look even farther into the coverage of Mukuba this past season as a Texas Longhorn, coverage grade 89.7. But how ridiculous is this number? Are you kidding me? 32 targets this season where they were thrown at him. He only allowed 10 receptions. I mean, you want to talk about someone that could be that ranging free safety that defends tight ends, defends in the nickel at times, is able to help range over the top and get into the arms and physical in terms of breaking up passes. Mukuba could be a very good addition to this Dolphins safety room. You pair that up with a safety in free agency that can tackle and play in the run game. That is going to be an intriguing young duo for the Dolphins starting secondary. But the one part that does concern me a little bit, even though Mukuba is absolutely elite in coverage and had an unreal year last season for the Texas Longhorns, he is not a good tackler. 14.4% missed tackle rate. For example, I know he's a linebacker, but we just talked about Jihaad Campbell with a 5.9% missed tackle rate. So that's a pretty stark difference there. I like Mukuba, but the questions about his ability to tackle are there. I still would be intrigued with him in the third round without a question, but that does give me a little cause for concern as we've had safeties struggling to tackle in the past. All right, we're going to go and highlight 2 players here. We're going to rattle them off, 2 fourth-round picks. Both interior offensive linemen, Tyler Cooper with the comp pick from Christian Wilkins out of Minnesota at pick number 134, and then the Dolphins' own pick here at 114, Luke Kandra, the interior offensive lineman from Cincinnati. We'll talk about those 2 in depth here in just a second, but I do got to give some love to our sponsor, and that is Game Time. Game Time is my favorite app, especially when I'm looking to go into a live event, whether it's a concert, comedy show, theater, sporting event, whatever you want to do in your local area. Game Time will have you covered with so many great features like Game Time Picks. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. They have the lowest price guaranteed. If you find a ticket in the same spot, in the same area, in a different venue, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. You also get a full panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Game Time makes purchasing your tickets so easy. So download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code CHATSPORTS to get $20 off your first purchase. If you're in the Miami area, one event that I've got circled on my calendar, even though I'm not able to go, Mary J. Blige coming to the 305 for a concert on February 11th. Seems like a pretty fun one to me. Take advantage on Game Time. That link is in the description and comments of today's video. All right, let's get back to the interior offensive line targets potentially here for the Miami Dolphins. Luke Kandra and Tyler Cooper. They both had relatively decent numbers in 2024 for their respective teams. Kandra a little bit better. That's why he's a little bit of a higher draft pick in this mock draft, just very minimal. But they were both fine. Kandra is a better pass blocker. Cooper's a better run blocker. Kandra played right guard. Cooper played left guard. I am a fan of Kondra's game. I prefer him a little bit more. But in an overall discussion about the interior offensive line when it comes to the Miami Dolphins, the Dolphins right now have 10 projected picks in this upcoming NFL draft. I think Miami should be drafting 2 interior offensive linemen. Probably, and I would like to say when things are all said and done in late April, the Dolphins probably shouldn't wait until the 4th round to take an offensive lineman, but we're just experimenting with a different type of mock draft today, going with a linebacker and a tight end early, and then going needs with safety and offensive line. But I think Kandra would be a good middle round pick, and I'm intrigued by Cooper as well. Let's grab a quarterback here in round 5. Max Brosmer, the quarterback from Minnesota. This one is interesting. It really is, because this guy played 1 year at Minnesota. He played, I believe, was Division III or FCS football prior, and it took him some time. It did. The first month of the season, Brosmer was really bad for Minnesota. He was. I watched him play North Carolina, who had a horrific defense, and he looked like the worst quarterback in the face of America. But then once he got used to the speed, once he got used to the competition of the Big Ten, of Power 4 football in college football, he started the ball out, and Minnesota started to stack some wins down the stretch and actually had a pretty good season for the Golden Gophers. He's an intriguing guy. I'll be fascinated to see how he does at the combine, how he does at interviews. Decent size, 6'2", 225. Decent intangibles as well. If Brosmer is able to pass some other tests by evaluators, I would be intrigued by him in the 5th and 6th rounds of the draft. Not my favorite prospect, but one to keep your eye on. But make sure you are subscribed, because we're going to continue to have you covered on all the NFL draft rumors surrounding the Miami Dolphins leading up to that late April draft. Mock drafts every other week at bare minimum. We'll also have you covered with draft rumors when they start popping out. Hit that sub button. Join us here at Dolphins Today. Another 5th round pick for Miami. We're going wide receiver, Ricky White III out of UNLV. Someone that has gotten some pretty solid buzz at the East Shrine Bowl, I believe, over the past week and a half. Ricky White, a very productive wide receiver. He had over 1,000 yards this past season for UNLV in a year where they were threatening at times to be the Power 5 or outside Power 5 champion in the Mountain West as a college football playoff team. Ultimately went to Boise State. But Ricky White also was really good in 2023, having over 1,200 yards for the Rebels as well. He's got decent size at 6'1", 190. Would like to see him add some weight. Not as good as a contested catch guy as you would hope at 6'1". Had only a 39% contested catch rate at UNLV last season. I am in the business of potentially drafting a wide receiver in the middle rounds to help develop in this scheme, in this system, that can play on the outside, be an X wide receiver. I think Ricky White could be that guy. And with so many picks here in day 3, in the 4th round, in the 5th round, in the 7th round, taking a wide receiver to me makes a lot of sense. We have 3 7th round picks. We'll start with the first one, Kobe Bryant, the cornerback from Kansas. And I am a big fan of Kobe Bryant. And I don't like to repeat picks on mock drafts because I like to highlight different players. I like to talk about different scenarios. But I got to be honest, as of right now, Kobe Bryant is an early my guy on day 3 of the draft. He was very productive last season for the Kansas Jayhawks. Didn't have the best season this past year. Expected more of him to potentially be a day 2, hell, even maybe a day 1 pick if he had that good of a season inside the Big 12. But if he's going to continuously be in the boards available in the 6th round, in the 7th round, I am going to continue to think about adding him to this roster because Cater Coe's a free agent. Cam Smith's been a disappointment. Storm Duck wasn't really that good as a UDFA. So you're going to need to add depth into this cornerback room behind Kendall Fuller and Jalen Ramsey. I think doing that late in the draft could be something Chris Greer targets, especially with 10 picks. Bryant's an intriguing name to keep your eye on for. I like him as a day 3 my guy early on. Final 2 picks here in this one in the 7th round. Nazir Stackhouse, the interior defensive lineman from Georgia, and then a running back here, Donovan Edwards from Michigan. I think drafting a running back could be something Miami does ultimately do. I think they cut bait with Raheem Mostert, saved the $3 million in cap space this offseason. And if they do that, they'll need a third guy to be behind Jalen Wright and Devon Achane. Maybe Donovan Edwards can do that. He's had some big performances inside college football for the Wolverines, but didn't have as good as a season this past year for Michigan as one would anticipate. Stackhouse, Georgia defensive lineman. I'll throw a Georgia D lineman dart at the board late in the 7th round every single day of the week. All right, so no trades in this one. We made 10 picks. Let me know how I did. Grade this mock draft 4.0. We went Tyler Ward in the 1st round. Then we went Jihaad Campbell in round 2. Mukuba in round 3, then some offensive linemen, quarterback, wide receiver. Let me know how you think I did in the comment section. And make sure you are subscribed because we're going to continue to roll out mock drafts all draft season long. We'll have you covered on the latest surrounding this Miami Dolphins football team. Subscribe and join us today here at Dolphins Today because, boy, are we putting out a lot of content that is going to need to be seen by you guys this offseason.